I was gonna let you start this one since I always jump in with the welcome.
Well, welcome everyone to Adventure Engines. I'm Jeremy,
I'm Chris.
and we are continuing our Ironsworn adventure. Uh, Last session, for a quick recap, we set upon our journey towards the Eastern River, stopped at a stopover, created a bond with some turkeys, ultimately ended up getting into a pretty nasty fight with a cursed bear, one that Sormena has cursed. Uh, Barely survived. We were both in pretty rough shape.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended at the end of that. But through our rolls, we ended up with an additional item that uh, I don't think either one of us fully understands yet, but might give us an opportunity later on to apply to something. Yeah, so we are continuing our journey towards the river. At this point, we're hopefully pretty well healed up, and I think we're going to make um, another roll to keep going. Was that kind of the plan?
Yeah, for the undertake a journey roll.
Hmm.
Yeah. So do you want to roll this one since we're a little bit more in Alder's territory?
Yeah, I think in this case, and I'm wondering if this is going to count as a significant time to spend with a person or community. Stand together to face hardship or make sacrifices for their cause. I feel like before Alder goes, he wants to attempt to forge a bond here as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And though, even though this particular stopover isn't an official Wegrit um, stopover, that the hardship of facing against that, cursed bear and protecting them is enough to kind of meet the requirements for that role. So
Mhm.
I'd like to give that a try before we move on. So let me roll here. Oh boy, continuing the twos. Luckily, it's 2 for my action and a 2 and a 3 for a challenge, and this is
Oh,
with heart.
nice.
So this is going to be a strong hit. So I can take +1 spirit, but I'm still currently full with spirit, and I can bump my momentum up by 2. So I am now maxed out on momentum, and I have a bond here.
Awesome. So what does this look like? Like how many, because the stopovers aren't necessarily places where people live. Are you imagining there's some people that are here permanently that help people coming through, or is it more ephemeral? Like it's just the people that are there right now?
I think this one is more ephemeral. This is like people coming and going, and we know that there are miners here currently, and I think maybe while they're mining, they go out. Perhaps they're looking for either black copper or looking for another precious metal or gems, and during their expedition, this might be a place where they return occasionally to get a little bit better rest and staying out in tents and campfires constantly. This is a structure, there's a fireplace, there are beds, and while they might not be, luxurious, they are certainly a luxury out here in the wilderness.
I think Elin like built a bar, just plank of wood across
Hmm.
across some stumps, and is like having drinks with the miners and like laughing and chatting with very salt of the earth people. She has like some fermented seaweed that they're getting drunk on.
I like it. I think that while you were doing that and maybe like carousing, um, Alder is speaking with a couple people that are uh, very thankful um, for his interference in with the bear, and he's telling maybe the legend of where these bears were cursed.
Oh, yeah.
So the idea that the black copper that he wears on his armor is Sormena's lifeblood. and when it is in high concentrations, very rarely can somebody tolerate such pure energy and power of a god, of a deity, and that these bears sought her out for something. And I don't I don't fully know the story yet on this, but I think that there is a bit of in this legend the bears intentionally sought Sormena out, and unfortunately she deemed them unworthy of elevation. And whether it was because they did not respect the technology or understand the technology, that Sormena cast them out with this curse, to carry with them a reminder of her powers. And this is why they are this, cybernetic hybrid creature that has so much anger. Um, and there is sorrow in the story. Like there's no like he has no vindictive nature about this. He's simply
Hmm.
stating like these bears suffered at Sormena's hand. She deemed them unworthy for some reason, or incapable of understanding her. She sent them off, and they were afflicted. And unfortunately, they cause what you saw today, um, and they must be dealt with. Uh, Unfortunately, violence is the only thing they understand. And so this story is very sorrowful and almost apologetic in the way that Alder approaches it, and saying that today was simply a response to something, and not a reason to think that they are necessarily evil, simply that they are troubled, and that they require the grace of Sormena even now. And which is why he took that bit of flesh and laid a feather on its head as a sign of respect, after the battle. So I think that's what it is that he's sharing. Um, and the reason I want to say that is because he is a story weaver.
I was going to ask if, yeah, that Story Weaver
Yeah,
asset
and
came into
while
play here.
on this one it doesn't necessarily come into play fully. Generally, it would add a +1 to my roll. I didn't really need it,
Hmm.
but it does do that, and then it would add an additional momentum on the hit. I'm already maxed out, so it doesn't really apply. But that is that is one of my assets, and I think this would be an opportunity to use that skill that Alder is trained in as a story weaver to create this bond with some of these people.
Hmm.
Um,
And it's a little, like, is it a little proselytizing? I can never say that right.
uh, no, no, I
Okay.
don't think I don't think Alder like I don't think Alder approaches his faith in that way. Like the acolytes at the previous stopover
Hmm.
definitely do. Right? Like they have a dogma, and that's what they're sharing. And Alder kind of, he's a little bit older maybe, and also his interaction with the broader world in his capacity as third champion has given him a more diverse perspective on things, and he realizes that there are different ways to bring people into this faith and belief, and proselytizing is rarely the proper way to do it. It's more about telling the stories and
Hmm.
making them relatable to people, and so they can, kind of connect. And I think that he's just a really good storyteller, and that's what allows him to forge these bonds, but also to have people um, remember Sormena and the lessons that are learned um, through the interactions of himself, but also the way that he interacts with the world. So yeah, I think that's like how it comes across.
Nice. I'm trying to think. Elin is I think maybe Elin's pretending not to listen, but it's, intrigued.
I like the idea that Elin and Pierce are like drinking and commiserating right
Yeah.
now, like a little bit. Hmm.
Yeah, but they like saw that bear up close and personal. Maybe even it's more like they want to know, or Elin wants to know more about the legend, just to understand it, because it might come, these creatures might come back. They might attack Var. She might have to deal with them before. Like, she's not really interested in the religious aspect, but she wants to know what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
So I
Did you
think,
mark
yeah,
that bond?
I did. Yep,
Nice.
I did.
You're
That's
gonna have
good to
more
know.
bonds than me when this is all said and done.
I mean, probably, but
Yeah,
that's
for
also like
sure.
that's also um, what he's doing. Like
Yeah, exactly.
my long term vow is to spread the word of Sormena, which
Mhm.
overlaps really well with making bonds and forging bonds. So uh, it makes sense. Makes sense
Yeah.
because that is kind of what he's designed to do. Um, all right. Do you want to? I think I rolled the last one for Undertake a Journey. So
Did
does
you?
Elin want?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you rolled the first one. I rolled the second, and
Right.
if you want to roll the third one here.
Sure. All right, and this is plus wits, right? Yeah. So I have a 3. Yeah, my wits are 3, so that's good.
Nice.
That is challenge dice are a 1 and a 10, which I feel like has happened to us several times.
You've had a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 4 plus 3 is a 7 for my action, but not surprisingly on a 1 and a 10, it is a weak hit. We reach a waypoint and mark progress, but suffer 1 supply. So I'll drop our supply down to 3, getting a little low, but not too bad.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. Progress on troublesome 3.
I think it's 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So that does fill us up to 9 progress.
Nice.
So I feel like it's a relatively easy journey. We're still on traveled roads, and I don't know if this is one more stopover or if it's maybe just like a safe place to camp, like a clearing. Maybe we can even see the river in the distance. We know we're going to get there, in a short amount of time, but we decide to camp down for the night, have some food. Elan's probably chewing on some like dried fish jerky. Um, Not really one for cooking over a campfire.
hmm I think at this point, since we are getting close to the river and we've kind of established some like the seasonal flooding and that sort of thing,
Mm.
I think that Threshka is helping to maybe like resupply. So she's finding small pools of water with small fish or frogs, salamanders, that sort of thing, and is enjoying herself quite a bit.
Do you want to roll resupply and see
Yeah, I think I will.
see
Yeah,
what
I
this
was
might
just
mean?
because we're at 3 right now, and I like the idea that as we're getting closer to the water, that part of the reason we only had that weak hit is because travel is getting a little more difficult for us, right? Like the
Mhm.
ground's soggy, it's more muddy, we're having to
Yep.
pause more often to rest because it's harder going. So yeah, I'm gonna roll to resupply. When you hunt, forage, or scavenge, roll wits. Now with Threshka, I can finally use her officially as an asset. She has the ability far seeing. So when you undertake a journey or when you resupply by hunting for small game, add +1.
Nice.
So this will give me a +3 total with my wits. All right. Okay, so this is going to be a weak hit. So a weak hit. Man, do I want to burn my momentum right now to do that?
So for the weak hit, take up to +2 supply, but suffer -1 momentum for each. So you're better off just taking the weak hit because your momentum is maxed. You probably don't
Yeah.
need to burn it.
Yep. All right. Well, you know what? I'll drop my momentum down to 8, and I will get our supply back up to 5.
Nice.
Yep. And I think part of it is that we are moving slower, and um, Alder is maybe giving Threshka enough time to help with hunting
Mhm.
and searching for like the really good stuff that's out there as we're moving. So
Um, I think Elin is definitely bonding more with Threshka now as well.
hmm
I think she really likes. Do you want to describe her again, just in case people have forgotten?
sure, yeah. Threshka is a scarlet ibis. So she's quite bright red,
And by
and
people, I
her
definitely didn't mean me. I meant,
right.
listeners.
And her, one of the traits of her, specifically her flight feathers, her long extending wing feathers, is that they end in a black tip underneath, which is very striking. And a lot of the feathers that Alder has, either literal feathers in his armor or the inlay or carved shapes of those feathers, seem to resemble or are from either Threshka herself or from a bird similar to her. So Threshka is definitely an extension of Alder's presence, and his I guess like some of the initial things that you notice physically about him is very clearly reflected on Threshka, or from Threshka rather. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right. So we've slowed down a little, but resupplied. I think it's time to get to the river and see what we find there.
Yeah. So are we going to, is this kind of like is this a
There's the
progress move?
Yeah, the reach your destination move.
Okay.
Because our progress track is at 9.
Mm-hmm.
So we just roll the 2 challenge dice against that and see what awaits us. Yeah. Do you want to roll or do you want me to?
Oh boy. I don't know. Um,
We could each roll 1.
well, okay. So what do we roll here? It's against the 9, right?
Yeah, so we just roll the two d10s,
All right.
and there's no modifier and no momentum,
I'll
so it's
roll a
just a
d10.
straight.
You roll a d10.
All right.
Here we go. I got a 4.
I got a 2.
Okay. All right.
Strong hit. Okay. When your journey comes to an end, roll the challenge dice and compare to your progress. On a strong hit, the situation at your destination favors you. Make another move now, not a progress move, and add +1, or take +1 momentum. Interesting. So if the situation favors us, what do we see? So it's the next day. I imagine the weather is nice.
hmm
um, it's clear skies. We approach the river. Um, we are looking for someone who has a way across. I'd say if it favors us, then maybe it's pretty simple.
Yeah, we built up the difficulty of crossing this river so much. I'm a little surprised we got such a good result on that. Um, There's us. Wow. Yeah, I kind of
I
want to.
mean, that
I
could
want to.
also just mean there is a way across, and
Right.
we could let the oracle tell us what that might entail.
Yeah, that is what I'm inclined to say. I'd like to roll an oracle, um, and see if we can get kind of a way as to exactly how, or a little bit more specific about
Yeah.
how it favors us.
Is there
Does
a
that
good
sound right?
news oracle?
It's good news oracle. We've got plot twist, which might
Ooh,
be kind of interesting as an oracle.
I do like the sounds of that.
Let's see. I think that would probably be it. That'd be the one. Yeah. What do you think? Want to give that one a try? Let's see
Yeah,
what it
definitely.
produces. Okay. Uh, the truth of a relationship is revealed.
Hmm.
I don't know if that one really fits here.
Yeah, it might be a little too early for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thought. Um, what if the truth of the relationship to this river is that it, with the the mythical history around it, it's designed to keep people away.
Ooh.
Like that sort of story is perpetuated
Mm.
intentionally, or it was at one point, and now it's just kind of like it's just understood as fact. And so we arrive at this river fully expecting this
Ooh.
roaring white water, impassable gorge of, just terrible
Yeah.
conditions. And we get there, and it's a big river, but it's really not nearly as terrifying as it should be.
Y
It doesn't live up to the stories.
you know what I'm imagining, and we definitely don't have to go this route, but, like, somebody found a control box for, like, a holographic disguise that was keeping a bridge hidden, and they're
Ooh.
now, like, you know, collecting tolls that they're like, "People can go if they want," "I just found this bridge, it's mine now, but I'm not stopping anyone."
Interesting.
I don't
Okay.
know,
I
given what we know of the, like, background of this world, I don't know if that level of technology actually really fits. It could also be magical because then
yeah. That's what
that
I'm
might
thinking.
make
Well,
more sense.
if it's sufficiently advanced, it is indistinguishable from
Oh,
magic, right? Like
exactly.
that's the whole thing. So if I like the idea that people have been crossing this river now pretty regularly um, for a while,
Mhm.
but they just don't bother going to the coast where most of the people are.
Yeah.
So the story doesn't really get back. And if you don't know where this crossing is, you're just going to show up to a big river. And maybe it's where we show up to the river, right?
Like, that's what favors us is we
That's what
find the
favors us.
crossing.
It's
Yeah.
it's the location at which we meet up with the river, not necessarily anything else. Like the stories, maybe through 90% of this river are absolutely true, right? It's filled with
Mhm.
rocks. There's white water. The the flow rate and current is incredibly fast and dangerous. But in this particular section of the river, it's fairly calm. There appears to be a bridge and somebody there that is asking for a toll to help maintain it. Um, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I like it.
Okay. Um, how do we resolve this? Is this something where we maybe just like pay one of our supply and we go across?
I mean, yeah, I think that makes total sense. The other thing we could do is try to do another oracle to see what the toll is and have it be a little side quest. May I kind of what I what just came to mind for me is that the toll is not when you cross, it's when you come back. Like you have to bring something, like information, knowledge.
Ooh, interesting.
I kind of like the idea that also like maybe it's not just one person, maybe this is a chance to introduce a new faction.
Hmm.
Like these are people that have been, trying to control this information. They're crossing the, river, they're exploring what's out there. They're starting to bring, you know, things back, whether it's you know, new plants, new food, new money,
Hmm.
precious gems or minerals.
Interesting. Oh, I like that a lot. Okay. What are we going to call them?
My mind's just going to obvious stuff like the gatekeepers or the toll master. Or the but
Hmm.
I like something a little more um, almost um, almost insidious.
What about like a ferry or as in like, a boat ferrying
Oh,
things back and forth? Um,
I mean they could be called like the Chirons. I don't know if they would. That's the ferryman, right? Chiron or Chiron?
it's Sharon, actually.
Sharon.
Yeah. Charon.
It's
Yeah.
a okay.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, or no, I'm sorry. It's pronounced Karen.
Karen. Okay.
Yeah. Karen. the Karens, and they all have the
The hood
dyed blonde hair, and they they constantly ask about the manager.
could be like the carry-ons, but it comes out like Karen.
Mm-hmm. So if their entire purpose is to gather things from beyond this point in the river, they are, curators, they are collectors, they are um, historians, recorders. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking.
See, I'm seeing it as being like, yeah, they're like that, but they are also like intellectual gatekeepers. Like they're not necessarily going to share this information with
As in,
people.
they make sure that anything that comes from that side of the river stops here and doesn't make it all the way to the coast.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Like I'm this is the scene I'm picturing. Like Elin and
Oh.
Alder get to the river, and we actually see from a distance some hooded figures crossing and coming back. And
Hmm.
then we like, okay, there is a way across, but who are these people and what is it going to take?
Interesting. Okay, I really love this idea. I'm into that. I think that is fantastic, because what it does is it creates, if and when we return, it creates a barrier, like, and that might be the last barrier we have to overcome, right? Like
Yeah.
to get back home. Um,
What about the curators?
I like the curators. I like the curators. I kind of like custodies too.
Custody?
Yeah, because it's like that's kind of literally a gatekeeper. Like, it is a defender of gates.
How do you spell it?
Custodes.
Is it is it a thing outside of Warhammer?
I mean, it's an Italian word
Okay.
for gatekeeper.
Okay, so they just took that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm imagining it's Warhammer leans very heavily on Latin,
Okay.
um, for uh, for different, names of their warriors and that sort of thing. So I'm just thinking like like a Roman custodes. Like, I wonder if that is a thing.
That would make sense. Um, we could add in our own linguistic, kind of start establishing some linguistic kind of patterns. Like like it's the world is Ivana. We've got Var. Like, what if it's like Custoves or Custoves?
Yeah, I like it.
Let's do that. But we don't, so we don't know that's what they're called yet. Okay. So we've approached the river. We see some hooded figures. I think we see hooded figures coming back across the river. Like, so they've obviously been to the other side. They have this good crossing point. They're bringing something back with them and meeting up, rendezvousing with somebody on the shore. And then we have to decide how to approach them.
I mean, we know how Alder likes to approach these types of things, right? Like, he's going to roll hard. He's going to be there with pure intention and honor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe there is going to be a flicker of doubt and surprise in Alder as he sees this river, which is clearly passable.
Mm-hmm. I think Elin's like, I'm pretty sure I can swim this.
Yeah, Alder just kind of like nods. Like, he wouldn't be able to say, I don't think he would be able to swim this river. But he probably has no doubt that you, as a diver, someone used to swimming in the ocean with its currents, like, you could probably handle this river. It wouldn't be easy for you, but you could probably do it. I so I think there's like, he's you can see his mind going through all of these stories of this river, and the horrors, and the fact that, many third champions never return. uh, that I think that Evan Bress, the former third champion, is like one of the few. He's the oldest. He's still alive, but he's not the last third champion. He might
Mhm.
have been third champion like 3 or 4 third champions ago, and now Alder is the current one, but the others just never returned, and it's
Ooh, I
because
like
they
the
like
idea that some might have left and never come back, like they
yeah.
decided not to come back because of what they see, or
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
but that's never the thought, right? They died. If they don't if
Mhm.
why wouldn't you return to the roost? Right? Like why wouldn't you return to be with everyone else unless you died? So like it's just assumed that if a third champion doesn't return that they have died doing the will of Sormena somewhere in the world, like on their journey, on their man, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to lean into it on their migration.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that now that he's seeing like, oh, they can just, we can just cross the river. Like he's starting to have just the inklings of doubt in his mind about what he's been taught, what he's been told, and the myth around this river. Um, yeah, not enough to shake him or anything like that, but just that tiny little, you see him pause for a moment too long in hesitation. I think that's what Elin sees.
She's like, you okay there, buddy?"
Yes, I'm fine. Uh, it appears that it is simply as, it is as simple as stepping across a series of boards. Let us go forth.
And she like puts a hand out and kind of stops him for a second. "Should we do this your way or my way?"
uh, do you say that in a way that implies that maybe you should do it, like you should approach?
More like, so here's what Elin is thinking. Like, I don't know if I like playing characters that like stupid dangerous ideas, or if that I just like stupid dangerous ideas. But she's thinking she sneaks, she approaches basically underwater
Hmm.
while Alder approaches, the way he does, and then she tries to like get a peek in their boat and be ready for, a surprise attack if need be.
Okay, interesting. All right, so we're stating that they have boats to ferry back and forth and not necessarily a bridge.
Yeah, yeah, I like the idea of boats. I think yeah, because we started talking about like the ferryman.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Um, all right. Sure.
Of course, this is exactly what we tried to do with with Javin in the very beginning, and it did not go well for
We
Elin.
also tried it with the Scour Hag.
Except, um, I can use my waterborne path for this one because I am going to
Mm,
be underwater. So I'm
okay,
thinking secure an advantage.
go for it.
All right, so I'm going to roll
Yeah.
secure an advantage and take a +1 because this is related to my knowledge of water things. So we'll start there. Um, that is a total miss. I rolled a 2, +3 is 5. My challenge dice were a 5 and a 6, and I only have 2 momentum. So, um,
Oh
you know what
no.
we did not do? It's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna matter. Our strong hit when we finished our journey, we get either +1 momentum or +1 on our next roll. So if I
Mm.
use that +1 here, that does bring me up to a weak hit.
Make another, because we didn't take the momentum.
Right.
So make another move now and add +1.
Yeah. Now feels a little subjective because we've been, discussing
Well,
the situation for 15 minutes, but that was just figuring out what was going on. So.
right, exactly. That was more describing the setting and what we were seeing. So yeah. Um, all right. So that
Okay.
gets you to a weak hit.
Yes. Um, so that is going to be advantage is short-lived to take +1 momentum. So I think she's holding her breath, and she can hold her breath for a good, more than your average person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am under their boat, unseen, ready to go if things pop off as Alder approaches.
Okay. Um, I feel like I'm going to approach and request assistance in crossing the river. I think very very plainly. Yeah, I think I just approach and hail there. I am third champion of Wegritz, Alderr. I request assistance in crossing this river. What assistance can you provide?
Do we oracle this or do we will
Yeah,
compel?
I want I kind of want to oracle because I want to see how they respond to
Yeah.
a Wegrit, like a third champion.
Because they might have seen them before.
Right. So I'm gonna roll the character oracle under disposition
Okay.
to see. Relaxed.
Oh, nice.
So they appear relaxed, and um, I think they lay out. I wonder if they're relaxed. Do you think that they would introduce themselves as the organization that they are part of, and perhaps give a name?
I mean, yeah, I think that makes sense. If we're gonna put a lot on the relaxed, like they are not bothered by somebody approaching them, right? And maybe this is more it's lucrative for them, so they are happy to help people cross because they know they'll get something for it.
All right. Well, I have a name here. We've got Matic and Euros. And the two of them are kind of greet Alder. And do you think I think they identify themselves as members of Custodes?
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, just kind of guardians of the crossing, ensuring the safety of travelers uh, going into the Eastlands. Um, and they state there is a small fee. Alder asks what that is, and then they present their standard answer, which is upon return, we require. What are we? How are we going to
Something
say this? Like,
I like the idea of it being like something worthy of passage.
mm,
Like they leave it open ended, but it's up to them. Like I like the idea that these guys are just a little skeezy. Like they're not totally altruistic. You don't want to cross them, but they also would rather things stay amenable or amenable.
hmm I like it.
I think at this point, Elin like pops up out of the water and just takes a deep breath and is just like, "Oh, I was fishing upriver. Did anybody see a skiff go by? I seem to have lost my boat." Like she can maybe see, from underwater that combat did not break out. They're chatting, everything seemed fine. So one of
Yeah, I
these
think
days,
the
though,
fact that they're
that's gonna
relaxed.
work.
One of these days it will. Yeah. Um, okay, you just stated that you were fishing upriver and you're looking for a skiff. We are technically in the same group, and we are trying to get to the same location on the other side of this river. Are you? How are you going to work that out?
I guess I didn't think that far ahead. I think maybe she's just. How about? I imagine Alder gives her a look, or even would he be like, "These are my friends, Matic and
Euros, I think was.
Euros,
Yeah.
you know, Elin, thank you for joining. I know you were going first. Would Alder be aware enough to give her a bit of an out?
Yes.
or be like,
Yeah.
Elin's such a joker.
I mean, in the last, the last week or so that we've been traveling, I am at like we have on record 3 instances of this thing not working out, and I imagine there's a couple others that are not technically on record, right? But,
Yeah,
like, she tried pulling the same thing, and it just doesn't work out as often as she would like it to.
yeah,
So, yeah, I think at this point, Alder's like, "Oh, Elin, um, please meet Matic and Euros. The 2 of them have agreed to take us to the other shore.
oh,
On return,
excellent.
apparently the payment for passage will be something simply worthy of passage." And I think when he says that, he's going to look at the 2 of them again for, like, confirmation, and also picking up on the slightly sinister connotation or implication of that phrasing.
Yeah, I
So
think
vague.
Elin will definitely clock that immediately
Mhm.
and be like, I'm assuming I'm assuming you two decide what's worthy of passage.
I imagine a non-committal shrug
Yeah,
from both of like synchronized non-committal shrug, right?
yeah,
Like,
like,
eh, right? Like too practiced not to be exactly that, right?
okay. I have a great idea. I think Elin is going to be like, I am going to bring you something so amazing. You are going to want to ferry us across 3 times just to make it worth it because you're not going to believe, what I'm going to bring back for you. And I'm going to count this as swearing an iron vow. Like
Okay.
it's based on like the chip on her shoulder.
Hmm.
I feel like it should be like extreme, like very, very difficult for her to actually pull this off.
I like it.
Okay, so as she says this, roll plus heart.
This is gonna go so well.
Well, I rolled a 5, and my challenge dice were a 3 and a 10. So on a weak hit, you are determined, but begin your quest with more questions than answers. Take +1 momentum and envision what you do to find a path forward. Um, I kind of like the idea. Maybe we can use an oracle for this. Like she does a quick, either asks them or does a quick like peek around like towards their boat just to see like what they might have, if she can get any clue to see what they might already have or what
Mhm.
people might have brought for payment.
Interesting.
And I'm going to mark this as extreme.
Would that be like a gather information, maybe?
Yeah,
Like, would that be a
yeah,
role, a separate one?
I could do that. Yeah, and then maybe on a strong hit, we'll roll the oracle, and without a strong hit, she just won't have any clues.
How about uh how about as we're going across the river?
Oh, yes, I like
This is
that.
happening. So, like, we're both in the boat. You are clocking everything in the boat. You're analyzing them, the types of clothing they might be wearing, any sort of jewelry, any sort of significant thing about their person or their boat that might give you a clue as to what might meet that requirement of triple the value of a passage.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so gather information is plus wit. Nice. So that is going to be a +3 for me. So I'm looking around. I'm just, trying to be as subtle as I can be, like asking questions, chatting. I feel like they're not going to give up a lot of information. And is that a strong hit? My challenge dice are a 2 and a 5. I rolled a 3. My wits are 3.
nice.
Hell yeah. So, on a strong hit, you discover something helpful and specific. The path you must follow or action you must take to make progress is made clear. Envision what you learn and take +2 momentum.
Nice.
Sweet. I feel like that's worthy of 1 tick on my vow.
I would say so. Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like we should oracle this.
Okay. Let's see here. So with the action and theme, we'll roll an oracle. We have inspect and law.
Ooh, law, interesting.
Inspect and law.
Let's
Hmm.
roll one more.
Okay. Falter and weakness.
I mean, the first thing I thought of were handcuffs, but I don't know what that would have to do with it. Okay, so I think that in chatting with which one's bringing us across?
I think both of them are.
Both of them. So in chatting with
Yeah.
them, with Matic and Euros, maybe we do learn that there's like civilization out there, and they want to learn about how it's structured, like what the laws are. Um, Maybe they're working on like a guide that they can sell people on how to interact with the people that are out there and how to navigate that society. And that is also something that would be extremely difficult for Elin to actually put together, just given her disposition, like stuff that she's not really going to care about. And it'd take a long time to learn the details of like how to stay out of jail in these other cities, that sort of thing.
I like it. Yeah, I think that would be.
Just like laws and customs.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like they would accept knowledge
Yeah.
as payment in this case instead of like a physical item. Um, I mean, I think that would entail some sort of physical proof, though.
Yeah, I'm imagining if there is some equivalent of a get out of jail free card, like whatever that might look like, whether, it could be like a medallion that indicates you are of a higher, you know, social class.
Hmm.
Anything like that that is a physical item that would be useful for navigating whatever society is out there
Okay, I
and
like
how
it.
to use it or what to say when you have it.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Okay. So that's so through this conversation, we're learning that they are looking for. Is this to exploit the system?
I think that's the implication is like they are
Okay,
going to be selling this to people that are crossing the river so that they can better navigate whatever is out there.
got it. Okay. Um, yeah, I like it. That's pretty cool. I don't know how Alder feels about this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it doesn't seem like he'd be something he would be super comfortable with.
Yeah, that sounds terrible to him. Like I think that I mean, he's smart enough to pick up on what they're trying to accomplish, and I'm sure they're using some very flowery language and phrases to hide the very straightforward thing of like, yeah, we need you to spy, gather information so we can exploit their current system, right? Like that's
Mhm,
basically what they're trying to do. I think he's smart enough to pick up on that, and I think he's more at this point, he's reflecting more and more on the fact like that a lot of what he's been told about this region is not true. And he's maybe lost in thought a little bit more about that than he is focused on how that is definitely not something he wants to be involved in.
mhm,
So I think Elin gets a pass in this moment from this because he's not like fully aware of the conversation and what's happening, but maybe later on there might be some issues here that kind of
mhm.
arise. So yeah. Cool. So I think after that you've secured an advantage or sorry, gathered information to help with your vow.
And we're across the river, so that's definitely progress on your iron vow of
Mhm.
following this heading.
Yeah, and I think what do we put it at?
I think you're tracking it, so I I hope
I
you
have
have
it.
it.
I have it at dangerous.
That should that should have just been the get to the river, right? I feel like following the heading, that was like the main vow. I thought we were gonna put that as either extreme or epic.
Oh, maybe. I'll put it at. Oh, you know what? No, sorry. I just saw it. It was at formidable. Find the source of the heading and keep Elin safe. In parentheses. So I can bump it up to extreme. I think that's. I think that
I
makes
think
sense.
that seems a little. I guess that's also metagaming a little because we have a little more knowledge of what it could be,
Hmm.
or at least where it might be bringing them,
Hmm.
though we don't know for sure. This
Right.
is going to be up to chance.
Yeah. So okay. So an extreme is just 2 hash marks, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, it takes 2 progress to fill in 1 square.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So we have crossed the river. What do we do now? I
Well,
think we have a heading.
we still have a heading, and I think that Alder, while in presence of these farriers, have he has been very subdued. Like he hasn't pulled out the compass. He hasn't made reference to having anything like that. And I think once we land on the opposite shore, we thank them, we turn away, and I think there are a few minutes of Alder like walking away on this trail, looking over his shoulder occasionally, making sure that they have both back in the boat headed across the river. And it isn't until they land on the opposite shore that he like lets out a sigh of relief and then finds some cover and like opens that compass back up again to make sure that the
Right.
heading still is there, like it still
Gotcha.
has some power. Um, so I think he is untrusting uh, of these people.
Hmm.
Um, wasn't going to show it to them, but now that they're clear, now that we're clear, he kind of relaxes a little bit more, and I think we can see that the heading is still there. And is it undertake a journey?
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
when you travel across hazardous or unfamiliar lands, set the rank of the journey. Um, I mean, I feel like this next portion, we don't have a destination yet.
Hmm. We're
Um,
just going like generally east.
yeah, and I think we need to set it at least dangerous, if
I
not
was thinking
formidable.
formidable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
So
like
I'm
it.
just gonna put head east
Yep.
as the
Head
name.
east, follow heading.
All right. I think this seems like one you should definitely roll. I also
Uh, yeah.
realized we shouldn't split the roll like we did earlier because then we have to decide who takes the momentum on a strong hit because it's
Mm.
really should be whoever rolls.
Oh, got it. Well, you can take the momentum.
Well, I took the +1. Like
Okay.
that was the one that we each rolled one on.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. So no more splitting rolls. We have to make. Okay. So let's undertake a journey.
It's probably really good that you have a lot of momentum right now in case you roll poorly.
Yeah. Yep. Let's undertake a journey. And I'm trying to think if this is wits, I think.
Yep.
If you're setting off from community which you share a bond, I do not. And I'm trying to think if I have. I can get +1 from Threshka for undertake a journey. I
Nice.
can add +1 because she is far seeing. So with her flight, she can give me a little bit of help with that. All right, here we go. Another 2. You know it's going to be a 2 when I do that. So it's a weak hit. A weak hit. My momentum is not high enough to make it a strong hit, unfortunately. So weak hit. You reach a waypoint, mark progress, but suffer -1 supply. That has happened quite a bit. All right, so we are going to make progress. So formidable is 1 full box, right?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. And we've reached a waypoint.
Yeah, what should this look like? I am imagining very quickly we come out of a thicker, denser forest, which is more like the landscape we're used to, and I'm imagining more of kind of like rolling, more open, like scrublands.
I'm imagining this first waypoint is like a sizable town.
Okay, like it's people, like humans from the western side where we were from that have come through.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that makes sense.
And I want to call it Eastgate.
Eastgate. Okay, so we have found a settlement called Eastgate. Do you want to describe what it looks like, how big it is?
I think that as we approach, we know it's Eastgate because there is a small wooden sign, like with a kind of scrawled paint on it in Eastgate, or labeled Eastgate. And I think judging by the size of the buildings, it's probably maybe half the size of Var. Not that Var is a big town, but
Mm-hmm.
Var is on the cusp of becoming a big town or a small city. And this is way more well established than I think we expected uh, from all the stories that we've heard. And it's very clear that these are people from the coast that have moved here and live here and have professions. We see, maybe a small marketplace. You can hear the clanging of a blacksmith. There's the sounds of um, barter and trade, and carts, small carts being pulled back and forth. So it's like this is a fully functional town in a place that we've been told shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm. So I'm picturing like Elin and Alder walk in, and Elin's head on a swivel, kind of taking in the sights, probably recognizing that there's people from like all walks of life or all parts of the western part of the continent where we're from. Like she recognizes like people that look like they're from Var, and people from other cities or farmers, maybe even a Wheatgrat. You think there'd be a Wheatgrat here, not necessarily a third champion
I
or
bet
a
there are
champion.
people wearing clothes that are very similar to Wheatgrit clothing, or like
Mm,
have some sort of emblem on their clothing. But it's clear that they are no longer like necessarily practicing.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So Elin is looking for anything that looks like a tavern, and kind of mindlessly chatting at Alder when she's looking to one side and bumps into someone and is just like, "Hey, what the hell?" and then turns and looks at the person and then looks up because they are significantly taller than her, and she sees um, 4 arms, 2 legs, kind of brownish orange, hard like carapace armor in this like segmented body and arms, and a large insectoid head with like mandibles that kind of chitter for a second and then say, she hears it say, "Excuse you," and she says, "What the hell is that?" This has been an episode of Adventure Engines, where collaborative storytelling and world building drive our adventures. We hope this podcast will inspire you to try something new in your games and expand the possibilities of the stories you create. Ironsworn is by Sean Tomkin. We are Jeremy Sampson and Christopher Dunn. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and begrudgingly on Twitter at Adventure Engines. And our website is adventureengines.games. Thanks for listening.